I like animals, cats mostly. I've grown up with dogs and cats, but as an adult, I prefer to have a cat over any animal. Never owned any goats, sheep, rams, horses, snakes, none of those things of that nature. I prefer a cat if I were to own an animal again. And that actually brings us to today's video topic, burnt offerings. Um, I am Unique Thought, and this is Dubious Scriptures, where we cover, well, I basically cover our concerns, my concerns, I'm sorry. This will be video 4 of 10, and again, based on what my viewers request and ask for, I will do more if requested. I would love to hear your comments, concerns, and maybe help me get a better understanding of things. Because my first question is, what is burnt offerings and why were they done in the Bible? So one definition I found, I'm going to read it here. One definition says, a burnt offering is a type of sacrifice in which the entire animal is consumed by fire on an altar, symbolizing complete devotion and surrender to God. Now, it also continues and says, it was one of the most important sacrifices in the Old Testament, typically involving a young, unblemished male animal such as a bull, sheep, or goat. The practice is rooted in biblical tradition, with its first recorded instance found in Genesis chapter 8, verse 20, when Noah offered burnt offerings after the flood. Burnt offerings represented atonement and commitment to God, although they are no longer required. So that's just one definition of a burnt offering. However, still, that drew me questions and concerns like, did God actually request this, and was he okay with that? So I had to do a little research on that, and let's turn to the Bible and find some of that research. I'll be reading from the King James Version today, as well as the New World Translation. New World Translations of the Holy Spirit. I'm sorry. So, and I will go to that chapter 8 of Genesis, verses 20 through 21. And we will start in King James. Let's see what it says about the burnt offerings. So chapter 8, verses 20, 21. And Noah built an altar unto the Lord, and took on every clean beast of every clean, and of every clean fowl, and offered burnt offerings on the altar. And the Lord smelled a sweet the Lord smelled a sweet savor, and the Lord said in his heart, I will not again curse the ground any more for man's sake, for the imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth, neither will I again smite any more everything living as I have done. So that was the King James Version. Let us turn to now the New World Translation of the Holy Scriptures and read what it says. So again, this is chapter 8, verses 20 and 21, in which, then Noah built an altar to Jehovah, and took some of all the clean animals and all of the clean flying creatures, and offered burnt offerings on the altar. And Jehovah began to smell a pleasing aroma. So Jehovah said in his heart, never again will I curse the ground on man's account. For the inclination of the heart of man is bad from his youth up, and never again will I strike down every living thing as I have done. So as shared previously in another video, similar meanings, just different words used, but basically the same overall theme. And it kind of concerns me a bit that God found he found it pleasing, the aroma of burnt flesh and an innocent animal sacrifice on his behalf. And I'm sorry, I understand that I am merely mortal. I'm a human being, and I say that God's way is not to be understood by us. And this is definitely one of those things I don't understand. Animals to me are, for the most part, innocent. Um, and I know that as humans, we consume them for food and things of that nature. But a lot of animals, we have them as our pets, our love. They become family over time, etc. So back then, it just concerns me how God obviously created animals in Genesis, as it explains, and he saw them as good. They were amongst us. All his creations were seen as good. And obviously the animals have a purpose. And so it just draws concern is their purpose merely for consumption and burnt offerings, at least back then? So I'll continue with another chapter in the Bible, started with the King James Version, back to Genesis chapter 22, this time verse 2. And started with the King James Version, Genesis chapter 22, 2. And he said, take now thy son, thine only son, Isaac, whom thou lovest, and get thee into the land of Moriah, and offer him there for a burnt offering upon one of the mountains which I will tell thee of. So this is not an animal, this is a human being. And I've said before in previous video, I had an issue with that. But moving forward, in same chapter 22, verse 12 and 13, it says, and he said, lay not thine hand upon the lad, neither do thou anything unto him, for now I know that thou fearest God, seeing thou hast not withheld thy son, thine only son, from me. And continuing, and Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him a ram caught in the thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered him up for the burnt offering in the stead of his son. Again, got an issue with that. But again, the animal was sacrificed instead of the human son, which was a little better, but still a bit concerning. So to the next Bible, the New World Translation, we go to Genesis again, chapter 22, verses 2. Then he said, take please your son, your only son, whom you so love, Isaac, and travel to the land of Moriah, and offer him up there as a burnt offering. And moving on to verse 12 and 13, then he said, do not harm the boy, and do not do anything at all to him, for now I do know that you are God-fearing, because you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. So again, at that, Abraham looked up, and there just beyond him was a ram caught by its horns in a thicket. So Abraham went and took the ram and offered it up as a burnt offering in place of his son. Thank God. Because wow. Yeah. But again, God, in this verse, I guess, is said to be testing the faith of this gentleman to offer up his son without hesitation. And when he proved that he trusted and had faith in God enough to do so, God showed him that there was a ram present instead. Always had a problem with that, I'm sorry. So moving forward again, Exodus, I won't read that chapter in either Bible because it's pretty much the entire chapter of Exodus, chapter 29. Pretty much the entire chapter was grossly detailed and explaining the ritual pretty much with the sacrificing of animals that they were to do daily as their worship to God, and you know, just offering up these animals. And I mean, it gets really detailed as far as cutting them up and sprinkling the blood about. I'm like, geez, okay, wow. It just seems odd that God would request this, like actually request this of man. It just seems a little brute. If I'm a man, even back in those days, and I've never done something of the such, to cut open flesh, even though it was an animal and not man, but to literally destroy the animal, murder him, innocent as he was, offer him up, cut him up into pieces, cut him open. I mean, this is something I've never done. It could be a bit traumatizing, maybe make him sick at the stomach. But again, I guess the trust and faith in God was stronger than his stomach or their stomachs. And they could perform these acts easily because it was requested of God.